So 3 amazing presenters today on what's lessons learned, what I wish I knew before starting a care farm. And so we have Gayle from Full Pocket, Brittany from 21 Roots, and Jenny from Homesteads for Hope.
All right. Does this make me, as you just learned, I'm Gayle from Full Pocket Farm, and we're in Montpelier, Virginia. We're a family-owned flower farm on 15 acres outside of Richmond that we use as our backdrop, providing services to our community. Something I really love about care farming and the care farming movement is how there's so many different models of how to provide opportunities. And I'm excited to be here today and hope to share a little bit about our story, which is one of my favorite things to do. And today I'll walk you through some of our journey, and hopefully you'll be able to cull some helpful information along the way that you might use for your programs. Our mission is to inspire and assist individuals living with a disability in developing self-reliance, self-determination, and independence through inclusive and meaningful farm-based activities and expressions. So that's our little place. Picture on the left is the Virginia equivalent of Snowmageddon, of 3 inches on the ground last week. And then there's a little shot from the back of the barn that you see there in the summertime. We have 15 acres. It's our family home. We have a beautiful pond that in this overhead picture we were redoing our dam, so it's a little bit empty. Where the little red dot is we have a stage. To the left of that is our permaculture flowers. Then the barn, our animal pens, my family house, and then up above you can see our greenhouse, and we have a big hoop house, our flower fields, and our vegetable gardens, and then up in the corner is my son's house, and then this area over here is a 15-acre nature trail. So here's our little family, and this is really my motivation. I know all of us have our story of our why and our who. Our journey began when I was a special education teacher and concerned about what options would be available for my students once they exited the supports of the school system. I left the classroom in 2014, and I was also a direct support professional supporting a young man who lived with me as supported residential. And he still lives with my family. My son's a farmer with a degree in agriculture. My daughter-in-law is an art teacher who also has a master's in special education. And my husband's a beekeeper, a woodworker, a computer whiz, and a jack of all trades. So we kind of combined all of our skills and all of our interests to work together. We consider ourselves really fortunate to have a common mission in life, to spend time learning and working with people who bring such life to this world. So our motivation was our family and the dozens of people that you'll see in some of these slides. So our goal was to create a horticulture and arts-based day support program. And with that in mind, we began educating ourselves about horticultural therapy. I have a certificate in that, as does my friend at the back. Universal design, zoning permits, building codes, Medicaid waivers, commercial electric systems, just a plethora of topics that we had to learn about. We looked all over the state of Virginia for 2 years to find a suitable location. Because this would be our home, a place for my son to build a home for his family. Ideally, there would be outbuildings. We wanted a pond or access to some water. A supportive community, because sometimes when you choose a location, it might be in a location where it's not receptive to folks with disabilities or the program that you want to do. And when we found that house and that property that you just saw, we really hit the jackpot. We met with people. One of the first was with a friend of a friend from art school, Woody Woodruff, who gave us a lot of great information. We attended their very early gatherings with other folks in the Mid-Atlantic region. Many are here at the conference today. And we started a consortium with other people in our community who were developing innovative programs for neurodiverse individuals. A friend who was starting a bakery, a person who is doing outdoor adventures for people who have diverse needs, and other farms and day support models. So collaborating in those early years was really vital, as many of us had a roadmap, but not a real clear vision, which is one reason why this conference, I think, is such a vital part of all of our journeys. And as this, we looked at funding, how are we going to fund it? As this property was viewed as our forever home, we were self-funded. We decided to go that route. And as such, since it was our family home, we were reluctant to hand over control of our property and legal ramifications of inurement to go the nonprofit route at that point. So it took us a few years to work through the massive amount of paperwork and obstacles, but in 2017 we were licensed by the state of Virginia, the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services, as a licensed day support provider, and we also became Medicaid approved, and we opened up Full Pocket Farm. So as you can see there's a ton of things we went through. We had to do licensing. It was a very complicated process that involved paperwork. We had to write policies and procedures that were a binder this thick, human rights procedures and policies, another binder that thick. We had to make our barn building. It was zoned agriculture, but we had to make the barn building commercial to get our certificate of occupancy. I'm telling you these things because these are some of the things I didn't know before I began this journey. And if you decide to go the route of having funding coming from a government source, there are going to be other things that you're going to have to jump through. Some of those things may be taken over if you join an already established agency and are under their wing. But if you decide to do it on your own, which I was stubborn enough to do, you're going to have to encounter those things. Oops, jumped my head a little bit too much. We were fast-tracked for approval because we live in a rural area of Hanover County, Virginia, and there was nothing that was a farm-based program. And there were very few day support programs, so we were fast-tracked. And again, we were funded through Medicaid waivers, and it's by an hourly reimbursement paid for day support services for qualified individuals. We also welcome private pay individuals who wanted to join our program at the comparable rate. At this time, the rate was $11.32 an hour to provide day support services. And when a person doesn't come to the day support service, if they're ill or have an appointment or just wake up and feel like they just don't want to face the day, you can't bill. So, in our day support model, we used our working farm as a backdrop for teaching agricultural skills, vocational capabilities, community outreach, artistic expression, developing a lot of social skills and friendships that still exist to this day. Our participants were also loved to be educators. We had field trips for children in local daycare centers or in kindergartens and other elementary schools. We also went to, and still do, go to assisted living. In fact, we've got a little activity planned for next month where our core group of folks who you see here, who started in our day support program, still get together, and we harvested lavender, and we're going to go do a sachet making task or activity with folks from the local assisted living center. So we did all sorts of stuff. We did agricultural-based things. We learned how to drive tractors. We led field trips. We did potting of plants for folks in our communities. We fed our goats and tended our goats. We did yoga. We relaxed in hammocks. You name it. In a farm setting, as you know, you can do just about anything. We worked with folks from our community who would come and volunteer. We built raised benches. On the nature trail that I talked about, we identified trees and made signs. When the weather was bad and we couldn't be outdoors, we did things like woodworking, so we learned how to refinish furniture. We did all sorts of fun stuff. We made, oops, I'm getting ahead of myself. We planted, we cultivated, we grew things, and had a lot of fun. So that was pretty magical. Our farmer art, we call them farmers or artists, however they wanted to identify themselves, because we did have a pretty hefty arts program as well. We have a kiln, so we did pottery. Folks learned to work on the wheel, so we would do a lot of stuff that was working with fine motor skills. That went on beautifully for quite a while. It was pretty magical. However, while we had our day support program, it was frustrating at times that we couldn't expand it. We had a waiting list of up to 50 people, and we just didn't have the capacity to serve people in a climate that is kind of cold in the wintertime, and the Virginia heat is pretty substantial. And our indoor area was only 800 square feet out of the 3,600 square feet of our barn. So we had to look at how would we be able to expand, because at this point we were only able to pay 1.5 people. And so something had to give. So, also the needs of our attendees. You know, we had some folks that had seizures, and so they couldn't be outdoors the whole time. So a lot of our big challenge was our environment to run a year-round program. So after COVID, we realized that we needed to do something different, really trying to get a little bit more maybe bang for our buck, and figure out what we could do that would be sustainable. So we pivoted, which was very heartbreaking, because we had all of these folks that had depended upon us for their livelihood every day. You know, they were coming to work, they were coming to be a part of being with their friends and doing things that were meaningful. So we knew we had to do something that if we closed the day support, we would have to still provide something. So we decided we would move to what we identify as a workshop model, which was an excellent choice, because now we're able to offer experiences to hundreds of people every year instead of just our core group, but we still do work with our core group. Because we were providing now under a workshop model, it's free. So we didn't have to have people that were qualified under Medicaid and had waivers to come and participate in our program. There was not the massive amount of paperwork that is involved. If those of you who are with know what it's like for Medicaid billing and documentation, that was way beyond just your own statistics for productivity, but are things that a state licensing requires. What we decided to do is now in a manner that's sustainable and provides room for expansion and more innovation. So our workshop model is a series of interesting topics. Throughout the year we do about 10 to 12, sometimes more, workshops. We call them Wednesday workshops. It's open to all, creates an inclusive environment. There's no cost. Hands-on activities that empower learning, that foster relationships, encourage creative expression and have value. Every time someone comes, there's an activity. Sorry, why is this going? An activity that they bring home that has a value to it and that they've created. So we offered different opportunities through our workshops. Fishing at our 1 acre pond, plant-centered activities. We still have the floriculture from the flowers. We do dried flowers. We have a whole a greenhouse full of succulents. Succulents are kind of our jam where we are. We do vegetable plants, on-farm agriculture experiences. Like I said, we have our kiln, so we do art experiences. This summer, we are doing a large-scale puppetry workshop. On our 5-acre nature trail, we also have a disc golf course and a zip line. In 2025, it's going to be our 4th year of providing our workshops, and we serve over 250 people each year with unique, meaningful experiences. We've continued our farm-based social events. We have a carnival, a beach party, holiday parties. We just finished a New Year's Day party. We're planning a child-centered party that some of our core group want to have a party, an event for children that they're curating. And plans include continuing to grow for mutual aid and offering employment. That is a big goal for us in the next coming year. So part of our workshop programs, you can see here, we've got folks fishing at our farm, we made birdhouses, people learned how to get the honey out of our beehives. There you see some pottery. If this was open, our attendees would be folks from other day support programs that would come, folks doing community engagement, homeschooling parents that would bring their children, little old ladies from the community who wanted to learn how to arrange flowers, or people who just wanted to be part of this inclusive community. So it's turned out to be a really great way for us to make our program and what we're doing and what we want to do, the work we want to do, and to share our farm with folks. So we do some value-added products. Every year we participate with our core group. And when I say core group, it's our folks from our day support who are still part of of things that we do. So we do special gatherings where they get together. And we do a big plant sale at a local botanical garden every year. And those funds go back into our workshop program, but it provides an opportunity for our day support folks to continue to be a part of going to the market, selling. They also were part of our outreach when we did our farmers market. So we've grown gourds and made birdhouses and thunder gourds, which is a neat thing if nobody's seen those. There's some of the succulents we've grown. There's pottery and the plants we put in and the succulents we put in the pottery. Succulents are a great thing if you're looking for programming, because they're so easy to propagate, and they are fast growing, and they're just a really great way for anybody, little children, folks with disabilities, folks, our seniors, to just really see the progression of a plant. That's my plug for succulents. So, all right, so some things I learned along the way. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place with all of the stuff I'm throwing out, but some things that I learned along the way that I think are valuable, and I'm sure many people can echo this as well. Insurance was really hard to get and was very expensive. When I was trying to get insurance for my day support program, I couldn't get any. One insurer said, well, I can insure you, but I'm going to categorize it as a nursing home. It's not a nursing home. The risk is relatively low for the folks that had already signed up to be part of our program. Even though I had a participant who used a wheelchair, who had a trach, folks with seizures, we had protocols in place to handle all of those things. So we weren't afraid of providing the supports that they needed. And most of the time, you're going to have to explain to them what it is that you're doing. Be prepared to advocate for the folks that you serve. I found that a lot of people that worked for licensing for the state of Virginia, who were in charge of licensing day support programs, were completely flummoxed by how can you do a day support program on a farm. So you will encounter people who won't understand what you're doing, and you're going to need to advocate for, well, yeah, this is great, and this is why. Transportation for individuals to get to a site is a real barrier. At least I'm speaking for my area and for the state of Virginia, but you know, I'm sure everybody, how do you get folks to where you are? You know, do you buy a van? Does Medicaid pay for their transportation? Are their parents going to bring them? So, and that can be a barrier. If people don't have a lot of those other supports, how are they going to get there? The amount of paperwork to be a Medicaid licensed by the state of Virginia provider was completely overwhelming. The compliance that on a daily basis that I have to do is easy because we run a good program, but the compliance part is something that I wasn't really prepared for how much intrusion on signing a quarterly report was going to result in a citation to my license. So those types of things, I wasn't prepared for just the annoyance of it. Now I would realize, oh, okay, that's something that just happens, I'll just roll with it. So some of the roadblocks that we found when we changed from our day support model, like I said, it wasn't very financially viable, so we had to change that. We chose to not go the nonprofit route. I'm so sorry about this, folks. We chose to not to go the nonprofit route when we opened our program because it was owned by my family. And I just didn't want, at that point, to get into the technicalities and the things that a nonprofit would bring by owning my own property, having my program on my own property. However, since then, we've opened up a sister arm called Friends of Full Pocket Farm as a nonprofit, and that helps support our workshop activities and why we can offer them free of charge.
How?
How did we do it?
Yeah.
I got a great lawyer that charged me $700 to do all the paperwork to open up a nonprofit.
But how do you offer free programming?
Because I got a few donations from the nonprofit. This year I got $20,000, which is a heck of a lot of money. The year before I got $3,000. The year before that we got 10, and some of it were for specific things. Like someone donated some money and they wanted us to buy pottery wheels. Another person donated money, $4,000, and wanted us to do the dock at our pond. So sometimes the donation came with a stipulation of something that wanted to be done. So, and our overhead is not very high for our programming. You know, if we're doing succulents in a little terrarium, I can go to the dollar store or go to the art thrift store and buy containers and we can create something. We're already growing the flowers, so we have those. We've already grown and propagated the succulents, so we have those. I'm a former teacher, my daughter-in-law's a former teacher, and you know, by nature we're hoarders, so we've got tons and tons of stuff. Somebody donated a whole bunch of wool, so we did wool, felted soap with some soap that was donated by a friend who makes soap in the community. So a lot of the things that we do are either very minimal in the cost, or we already have the materials to do them.
So are all your staff volunteers?
Yeah, so our staff is the 4 folks that you saw there, and anybody who actually wants to come and help. Now, so the next part that is important, like how do we support ourselves? So when we pivoted to the workshop model, we took the lower level of our home and we created a group home. So now on our property, we have a sustainable, lucrative monetary source for the 3 gentlemen who live on the farm. One of them is the gentleman that's lived with me for 11 years, and another one is one who is part of our day program, Christian, that you see him in a lot of the pictures. And then another gentleman who's joined us as well, who loves living on a farm. So we're able to provide that for a group of folks now too, which has been really great.
Gayle, I think
we're way out of time, huh? I'm sorry. So on that point, thank you for indulging me. And there are my boys, Daryl and John. Daryl Hall and John Oates. And thank you very much. And I apologize for talking.
I think what we'll do so that we can hear from all the presenters is like, go ahead now, if you have a question, write it down so you don't forget it. So if you have any more questions, and then we'll, up next is Brittany.
Hello. So I'm Brittany Wiitala. I am from Stillwater, Minnesota, and I am the co-founder of 21 Roots Farm. So we operate a 21-acre property. There it is. So it kind of came with everything set up. Like some people's stories, I got an orchard. So my friend Amy and I kind of had this 11-year joke, we would say. And here's our joke, but we would go back and forth. When we start our whatever it is, you know, I wanted an orchard, and so this property on paper had nearly everything we wanted. So the only thing it was missing was the back 40, but you don't get that with 21 acres. So we are year-round. We're a nonprofit. We were founded as a nonprofit in 2019, and we currently have 3 full-time staff, 2 part-time staff, and then kind of run with 5 volunteers, and so they kind of vary in their skills of, you know, one lady comes in and does a cooking class every week, and then we have the guy who, if there's a tree down, we can call him to come and help us. So our mission is we're committed to transforming the lives of people impacted by developmental disabilities through enhancing skills and cultivating independence by incorporating nature and agriculture into their daily lives. So here we are, this is Amy and I, and we kind of went back and forth, and we didn't really know, our vision was kind of foggy and fuzzy. It was like we knew we needed to do something outside with people with developmental disabilities. Unhooking from technology was a big piece of what we wanted to do. And so in this time, at the top, there's this picture of a tent, and so I needed to do something. And so in the front of someone's yard, we started Nature Days, and so we had 12 youth with developmental disabilities. I set up tents, and we moved around to the different tents all week. I rented a bear kit from the DNR, and it was kind of our start. It was kind of right there. And then that next year, we were able to launch some programming, and so there's some folks digging in the soil of our first raised garden bed. And it just kind of felt surreal. And so as we started, we, you know, had a porta potty, so not everything was set, okay? We had a porta potty, so we had an indoor space that wasn't usable, so we kind of just were seasonal and kind of just offered a bunch of things, and people came, and they say, if you build it, they will come, and they did. And so when we asked people, how did you hear about us, nobody knows how they really heard about us, but they came. And so I think how our visions and our programs have evolved, building relationships is like at the core of what we do, and I think building trust has given us that freedom to adapt and pivot with our farmers, and it's ultimately led to success because they trust us. And this Isabella's been with us since the very beginning, and so at the beginning we were trying a lot of different things, one-time visits with schools and day programs, and it just was not fulfilling in the same way, and it was exhausting. I think I want to go deep, and I want to see people build on those skills, but we kind of, that's what we had, so we did it. And so we did a lot of tours, and then realized like that's not where our heart is at. And so our initial, as I said, our initial vision was fuzzy, and that kind of led to this spirit of adaptability. It's a hard word to say. And so as we've grown in our mission, employment has become more of where we're headed. So right now we're kind of offering more of a day program style. We decided not to go licensed. I talked to every provider that would listen to me, and they said, if you can do it without, do it. And so I think they're like all watching us like, oh, they're still alive. So 6 years later, we're still doing it. So I would like to say, instead of what I wish I would have known, I like to rephrase it into what I'm glad I didn't know. And so starting a care farm is a journey filled with challenges and unexpected rewards. But I'm really excited about all the lessons that we've learned. And so one of the big things is like the complexity. You were mentioning just like the multifaceted things that you didn't know that you were supposed to know, and you don't know what you don't know. And so I think just like balancing the board of directors, volunteers, then I have to tell them what to do. That's probably been the biggest surprise of running a nonprofit, is like, oh, I'm in charge of those. And then just like coordinating staff, and then I just felt like, you know, we were kind of juggling a million things at once. And if I would have known how overwhelming it could have been at times, I probably would have been more hesitant to start. But I think those complexities have been part of the growth process and kind of have made us resilient and just like really good at problem solving. So it's kind of like bring it on. We've learned to kind of adapt the chaos and take it to our advantage. So we've adopted this mantra, and sometimes we do this. And so this is the, by day, the tree fell over the driveway. So the three of us are hauling this tree out and taking care of it. And then by evening, we're gussied up for the gala. And sometimes we do this. So even at the conference, I was making a table full of what does she call them? Tape donuts to hang all the signs on the doors. And so I was laughing, like, and sometimes I'm sitting in Massachusetts putting tape on donuts, or tape donuts. So it's like my personal coping mechanism. And then burnout is another thing I'm glad I didn't know. I think just like living in the space, I live on the farm, and so just that, I've had roles where I've lived and worked at the same place, but not in a leadership role. And so I think when the unexpected breaks, it's on you, you know, and just like the, I think also the emotional toll, I think that things play, and I'm an empath, and so I think hearing family stories really gets to me, and then having to say no to good things is like super painful. So I can only imagine like having to, yeah, say no is really, really hard. But I think that the relentless nature of the work could have deterred me, but I'm gonna take this as a positive and just like pushing myself to really like take care of myself, learning about delegation and kind of relying on the community. I think there's a lot of times where I don't know how to do something, and then I remember, oh, I bet there's someone out there who wants to give back, and so it just takes a moment of asking for help, and so I'm glad I didn't know about burnout. And then I think the coolest thing is those unseen successes. I think in those quiet, like little moments is where I really experience kind of that success. And I think watching our farmers connect with each other or with an animal, or it's just in these very tiny moments that wouldn't show up on a report, and those are like the most meaningful thing. And so I guess that's a surprise, I would say. Like those are probably the most meaningful. You can have all these great things, but when you're like, those little moments mean way more. So those are two of our partners. So these are some things we're proud of. So we've cultivated this vibrant and supportive community on the farm, and we're incredibly proud just of this safe haven that we've created for our farmers. And it's really inspiring to watch them grow into leaders and into experts, and just seeing them be able to teach each other and teach me. It's a pretty cool thing. And then just the feedback from families and other supports, it's really humbling and deeply meaningful, and it's the reminder of why we're doing this, and it drives us, and it, you know, we know that we're filling this vital gap in people's lives, and sometimes that feels overwhelming, that there aren't as many choices, and that this is the best there is. And sometimes I feel like I'm only able to give half of myself, and so imagine if I could give my whole self, like how much more meaningful it could be. Let's see. Let's talk about the resources that we've called on. We've had a lot of great support from our local community, so other groups that are working with people with disabilities, and then other agricultural, nature-based nonprofits. That's been really great to collaborate. And then the Care Farming Network has become really vital. I was in a career in the education system, and my last job was in an all special ed school. And so I think that idea of like being able to learn from all of these great educators every single day was so amazing, and then you're kind of plopped on this 21-acre property by yourself, and I missed that, and so I think the Care Farming Network kind of came in at the right time, and just being able to like share and give and take, and that's been really incredible. And so I'm sure, as some of you are probably aspiring, it's a gift to be able to share. I reached out to everyone when I started, like any farm that I could find, and one responded, and we road trip to Ontario, Canada, and it was a social worker and a child therapist, and they were doing very different things, but it was like, I left going, I can do this. Just seeing they were doing and living up to what they wanted to do, and that was kind of all I needed. So, starting a care farm isn't easy, but the rewards are profound. If I could go back, I think I would do things very similarly. For us, I kind of look at it, you could have it all planned out, or you could kind of go for it. And I think everyone involved at the grassroots of our organization, we're very entrepreneurial, and so we just kind of did it, and it's working. And so our farm continues to evolve, but the core mission remains the same, and we're all growing, including myself, and it's very beautiful. So, thank you.
Try to zoom it.
Oh, yeah.
And then move it. Okay. My name is Jenny Brongo. I am the founder and CEO of Homesteads for Hope Community Farm, located in Rochester, New York. And I have been dreaming of this place as a sister to autism my entire life. What was going to happen to my brother when my parents were no longer there? Was he going to have a group home? Was he going to have a job? Was he going to have friends? I mean, all these things were so heavy on my heart until one day that one of my parents did pass away, and I had to step up for the family and figure out what life was going to be. And I had the most miracle experience with my brother with profound needs at a farm down the street that we now own today as Homesteads for Hope. But we have been working on this, not just dreaming of it, for 8 seasons now. So we're going into our 9th. It's been 8 very long years, and I really do want to get down to the core of, if I could give you any advice, or to the people who are like, want to do this or fix it or something, please know that every one of our ideas and dreams, they're unique and they're different, and they work for us and our touch and our region and all that, and that is okay. Also, don't compare yourself to others. And I don't think I did what we do in Rochester and my area, like no one does what we do. And I followed the premise of offering residential housing, as you can see in this map, a part of my vision. So it was a full campus model to learn, work, live, and grow. And I was in a different conference network for the last 10 years, and I've been and stayed at the CEOs or the farms or the communities, over 20 of them all across the country. But don't compare yourself, because if it doesn't feel good in your heart for your families or yourself or who you're trying to serve, like, don't do it. But I will say that I am that sister to autism that put the wagon before the horse. This is the exact same vision model that I use today, and it is slowly coming to fruition. We own 55 acres on a wide water parcel of the historic Erie Canal in New York, and we have 25 acres that are on the canal side that are dedicated to our farming programs, our community farm experience, our events, our opportunities. And then my vision, which by 2026 is the goal, to be able to have something to show for 30 acres of residential housing, which I did a pro bono map, and it says I should potentially be able to have 100 units next door and 300 people living next door inclusively, and all people of all abilities. Did it again. Okay, this is my second presentation today, and if anyone knows, I've done that.
Down there, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we'll see how that continues to go.
Let's talk about numbers. I'm gonna be so honest, I really thought money grew on trees. I thought, oh my goodness, it's agriculture, it's sustainability, we're on the historic Erie Canal, we're serving people with disabilities. Like, money is just gonna grow on trees. And also, like, we can have a pumpkin patch and we can have a tractor rides and we're gonna make $100,000 and we're gonna do this best agritourism thing for people with needs and it's gonna be accessible. It's all gonna happen overnight. No, no, it's not. It is not that easy. And a lot of what we've done in the beginning, and I will get to the beautiful photo of what we have created today. My background is in construction management engineering. I used to own a gravel pit. So I built the whole farm essentially with my network, my resources, and that all went great until COVID hit. And people didn't have the means as they used to, and also like materials and lumbers went up. So like that was a huge problem, and not that you can't control that, but like, you know, it's just not the same anymore, and we don't have those resources. So my biggest fundraising revenue in the beginning was in kind. People donating the things, the time, and that's how we built the organization. But I think it's very important to look at numbers, revenues versus expenses. In 2024, our operating budget was a little over $1 million. That is our expenses. But you'll see 60% of the revenue we brought in came from fundraising and grants. That's a gala. That's $400,000, $500,000 worth of grants. It's general contributions. It's in memory of. That's 60%. And if you compare it to my payroll is 65%. But what is nice is, as you can see over here, it's 40% of the revenue we are bringing in is coming from our farm and from our farm store and our community events and our rentals and our Thursdays at the farm events and our field trip Fridays. So we do have some sustainability, and this does look good to funders. Like, you still need them, right? These numbers say, well, they do need us, okay? But I'd like it to be flip-flopped. As a 501c3 nonprofit with the mortgage that we'll get to, I would like to see more 60% of sustainable revenue and 40% on fundraising, so that my staff get to utilize the funds for growing something, not sustaining something. I don't want to just fundraise for the payroll. And I want you guys to understand that it's okay to stay small, because this is a lot of work. From the expense side, business overhead is 10% of that $1,058,000, okay? So that's our $100,000 in insurances, and we don't have to pay property taxes, but insurances, utilities, small maintenance, just office equipment, office software, your CRM, all those things, it's $100,000. Program supply 8%, fundraising marketing 7%, that's fine, but look at that mortgage. So out of that million, 10% is my mortgage. So that's about $100,000 that I took out day one. So that beautiful map and that beautiful picture, I started off on day one with a $1.25 million mortgage. I put the wagon before the horse. I said, no one is going to believe in this dream if I can't like show them this is where it is, right? Like, I'll just own this piece of paper and this picture forever. So what am I gonna do with it? I looked at partnerships, and we'll talk a little bit more about rent versus mortgage, lease, partner. But I was stubborn, to be honest, okay? Also, I thought money grew on trees. I had my brother, I had my mother, you know, I had a bulldozer. Nothing was gonna get in my way on this, but I did go to the state, and I did talk to all the right people. But I took out that mortgage anyway before I was truly ready. So one thing I would definitely, we'll get to the conversation, because I think it's important if people are considering those options. It's something I hesitate with every day, but now our property is worth like $10 million, so it's not a big deal, but it was a lot to do on day one, and you better have your ducks in a row, because it's hard. So there's a little financial knowledge for you. Also, if you are a 501c3 nonprofit, and maybe in the state of New York, it's probably the same other places, if you fundraise more than $1 million on your books, right? Your services, everything, $1 million, you will have to do an audit. My audit and my taxes this year were $24,000. And they don't take payment plans, just to let you know. And it's vigorous, and you better be totally available during audit time to do all that work. So I had a rule, I was like, we're never gonna make over $1 million, so we never have to go through an audit. We have to make over $1 million to do this dream.
Slide, slide.
Thank you. You saw me before. I did it like 6 times. Okay, and I made this real short. So I have this lovely page of things I want you to know. Start off with your ducks in a row. Get a great board of directors from day one. I know you want to have your auntie on it. I know it's safe to have your cousin, right? But really build that network. Have the doctor, the lawyer, the person who's going to help with the grants, like build like your free team, your people who are going to be there, your people who are going to fundraise for you, the people that you can call at 10 o'clock at night because you're crying. Those are the people that you need. I would suggest keeping it close, especially if you have something you feel like you're going to lose, okay? But it's taken me 8 years and I like kind of finally feel like, okay, no, mom's got to retire here, right? I need the lawyers. I need the people that are going to build it. Start that early. Business plan. Now I had one, but I had the mentality that everything's going to happen overnight, okay? And so make sure you have a business plan and make sure you have a people who've read it. It's not just something stuck in your head, because for me it was. A fundraising strategy, and a strong one. Talk and network with people, the people at this conference, the people in your room, the people at your SBA in your city. Like, go talk to people and just make sure you have a solid plan. And startup capital. So when I received that $1.25 million check, I only got to keep about $150,000 of it as my startup capital. Now I also pitched this, what we're going to call them, well, no, I can tell you, it's the Disability Opportunity Fund. You feel free to write that down, but if it sounds too good to be true, run. Because that's what happened with me, okay? I pitched him so well, he really thought that I could grow money on trees. He believed in me that much, he believed in me more than I believed myself, and I got caught in the mousetrap, if that makes sense, okay? So just buyer beware, but it is a great opportunity because if you got your ducks in a row, he is a person you could call. But I wish I had a little bit more startup capital, because when we had the farm, like everything was in shambles, and I was looking at like a beat up old barn. I was like, oh, that's gonna be our farm store. I'm like, oh my God, there's so many chemicals in the walls. What was I thinking? Oh, we're gonna knock that down, and now we're gonna fundraise for all these new buildings. It's okay to stay small. Truly, truly, it's so okay to stay small. If you're serving one person, it doesn't matter. And then you hear about the people like, oh, I served 100 people a year. Do you? That's cool. Do you know those 100 people? Do you like know them? Do you know how much you've changed their lives? Because we're up to about 36 full-time apprentices, and I don't know every single their story. But when it was 5, when it was 10, I knew their whole story and their everything. We were family. So it's okay to be small. Never forget the power of your story. That's why they send me to these things, is because my story is powerful, and even though I have a development director, they still need Jenny to go in there and tell the story, because people donate to people, okay? They need to see the faces. They don't really care about your farm. They want to see the people and the stories. Stay true to yourself, values, and brand. Be genuine. If it doesn't feel right, go the opposite way. Fundraising is about relationships, okay? So I've learned a lot in 8 years. Money does not grow on trees, and anyone have a Wegmans near them? It's like a really awesome grocery store. Okay, so think of your really awesome grocery store. She reached out to me and was like, why haven't you asked us for money? And I was like, I don't know. She's like, well, okay, you're gonna get it. And I was like, oh yeah, like I need like $10 million. She's like, no, we're gonna date, and you're not getting the diamond on the date on the first date, if you know what I'm saying. She's like, this is gonna take time, a couple years. And my largest gift from them was $100,000 after 4 or 5 years. So it does happen, okay? Family first for yourself. Family first for your staff, because they're your work family, and the families you serve and the people that are connected, like keep them in your inner circle, because they're also your ambassadors. They're the ones that you can call in a pinch. If you can, invest in a nonprofit consultant. I've had 2, and each time I've been able to afford them, we've grown leaps and bounds. Be ready to shift. I think we explained that over here too, is like, we have to shift, be ready for it, like it's happening. So if you need like knee pads and a whole helmet, like be ready, because it's gonna happen at some point. I think I mentioned build a professional board of directors with the skill and the network. And then I've got some tips and things that I just love along the way of like tools and resources. So I built our website. So if you go out to the table out there, Homesteads for Hope, I use Squarespace. And I don't know how much money that saves me. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's bad, but we have more control. We don't have to wait on, you know, Andy from IT that you had to outsource to change something that you now want to change quickly. Canva, if you're not using it, get on the wagon. It's on your phones, it's on your desktops, it's free. QuickBooks, that's kind of an easy one. Also, TechSoup for nonprofits or for charitable organizations. TechSoup can get you like everything for, like I'm paying $100 a month for QuickBooks right now, and someone just told me I could pay $100 a year for QuickBooks. And I was like, okay, things I wish I knew 10 years ago. Bill.com. If you're like, oh, well now we're scaling and we need an office manager. I have one, she's retiring soon. She's also tired, okay? Bill.com has something amazing. It's all your, it's a bookkeeper, you can do it on your phone. It merges with QuickBooks perfectly, so it's your bookkeeper and your accounting software. Where do you find money? And I'm gonna say this for the nonprofit and the for-profit folks out there. Instrumental, so like feel free to take a picture of this page, but it's called Instrumental Grant Database. You can get a 30-day trial. And you can export all the information, so you can just use it for 30 days and then go back 30 days from later and use someone else's email. Database. Do not start with a spreadsheet, because that, just don't. Start off with something good. We are just transitioning into a new one, but I went from, I had like they tried to sell me on like a Tesla, and I was like, I don't know how to use all these buttons, and then they tried to sell me on, I ended up with a Chevy. I was like, we can all fix an old Chevy pickup truck. So I liked Network for Good. It's an excellent, easy to use, like, it's like Facebook. Like everyone knows how to use it. If you're looking for something, it does ticketing, it does sign-ups, it does database stuff, it does thank you notes, it does communications. Look that up. Our next one is Neon One. So we will be switching in the next 3 months. Why? Who asked? Did someone ask? Yeah. Oh, so Jen. Alexis, why?
We've just gotten too big, and I don't know, we just switched to Neon One because we can expand, we can have more people in our database, and it does just a lot more. We've just grown so much as an organization, so now Neon One, you can have your event pages, it does memberships, it does
volunteer tracking, all
all
these other little sign-up genius. We had to get rid of those, and now all in one, and it's cheaper. I don't understand it, but yeah.
And it does a lot more, and it's more user-friendly for our members and our donors. So it looks better on their end than Network for Good.
Think about your customer-facing experience. That stressed out mom with a special need kid who just wants to pick up the phone, or your donor, right? Like whatever's customer-facing. 2 more things before Andrea looks at me. Anyone in the room really contemplating like rent, lease, mortgage, don't know what to do? Okay. You feel free to find me later. But I will say, these are the tips and tricks of what I've done. And within these 10 years of dreaming, I wouldn't turn back. I really wouldn't. But I will say that mortgage weighs heavily on me. It's $7,800 a month. During COVID, with the wonderful man from the Disability Opportunity Fund, I paid every single month. I didn't get any leniency. But you know what? If I went with a traditional bank, because if I had the collateral at the time instead of this angel investor dude, right? Can you feel my hesitation? I didn't get any leniency, and I'm just so sick of paying $7,800 a month, plus this, plus that, $100,000 a year. Like, that could be 2 staff, right? Or like 3 part-time staff. I'm over it, and it's okay to have a mortgage, but like, our self-sustainability really is on the edge of that. Also, there was a time where I thought, I can't pay it. And now I'm getting into conversations because what we're trying to do, and as you can see in the vision, is I'm trying to go towards housing, and I've got a couple projects, but you know what I'd like to do? Make sure that I am debt-free before I move on to this residential housing, because the last thing I want to do is have $1 million before I start this next dream. And funders are like not about it. Like, I need asphalt right now and some electrical upgrades. It's not sexy, okay? No one wants to do it, but it's so high demand stuff, I can't just in kind get it really done. It's expensive. We're in a different economic time, but this mortgage, like, it's funny, I kind of feel like I got the banker who understands me, but then I got the biggest donor in town who's like, doesn't want to hear me because he's too smart and doesn't know what he's talking about, or I'm talking about. So I would really just consider that in your future plan, because it is definitely something. I am going to show you, because I know how to navigate all of Andrea's sessions. What we are today.
Cool.
I kind of cheated. That beautiful rendering is of the farm that on day 1 I took my brother to, and I said, that's it. It can't be anywhere else. It's gonna be this hub. It's gonna be like this country club for the special families, and we did it. So it's here. And people get really excited about that. This was our block party event, maybe, Jam on the Canal. I don't know. But beautiful farm. Didn't start off like that at all. There was a dirt road in and a dirt road out, and every building that you see is new, minus the little red barn and the big red barn, and the new white addition was attached to a 200-year-old structure. And it takes time. You will have your dream, and if it was, and things like this were easy, everyone would do it. So keep doing it, because there's a reason you're in this room. There's a story, there's a passion, there's a reason you're here. You'll get through it. Just don't ever give up. And I always like to say, like, get on that bulldozer and just build that path. Even if no one's ever been there, just keep going. Thank you.
If you want to, I think, I bet you all have some questions.
I mean, what's the alternative to the mortgage? You're like, don't take out a mortgage. What's the other?
In your situation, I think, knowing what maybe I know now, and also the fact that I don't care too much, maybe I would have personally bought land and then had the organization pay me rent for it.
That is what I do. You know, my programs pay me rent.
Can
If you
everyone
can.
hear in the back without the mic?
We'll scream.
Okay.
That's an option. Partner. You don't have to, like, what if there's a cute little farmer guy down the street that's like, oh, I need someone to come take over my farm. Yeah, go there. Figure that out. Maybe it's a good option. Can you pay rent? So that poor farmer is now retired, can you pay him like, you know, $200 a month for a 2-year pilot, right? So you can get traction. Because I started off on day 1 with an $8,000 mortgage, right? So if you could find any other avenue, that'd be great.
And there might be somebody else down the road, you know, another farm down the road, that if they're not using it, because, you know, basically farmers are retiring and, you know, especially small-scale farming. And if you're a nonprofit, perhaps you can say, hey, let me use your land. You'll get a tax, you know, you can get a tax write-off.
Partner, rent, lease,
Also like interest only.
or just don't go big.
If you know you're going to be somewhere for a really long time, the interest only will.
Let's hear from Christine.
Is it done less?
what you're saying about paying for rent, but also for Full Pocket Farm, my question is, you started out as a for-profit, and then you went to the nonprofit, and you started asking some questions. I just wanted to clarify, because the nonprofit can't support the for-profit, obviously. It has to be the other way around.
Yeah.
And I have a for-profit now, but the nonprofit comes up constantly. You know, okay, you know, I started because it's just me and it's easy and that was the road, but obviously the nonprofit stays on the table all the time. How does that work for you? Like how, I know you said a good accountant really
Yeah.
helps a lot.
So that
Let me
is
just-
something that
sorry,
we had to.
I'm just going to repeat the question. I think you're basically kind of asking how a nonprofit works with a for-profit if you're on the same property.
Right,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was when we were for-profit. I was approached all the time by people who wanted to contribute, who wanted to give us donations, and I just couldn't do it. So with the help of this attorney, we created Friends of Full Pocket Farm as a nonprofit leg to support, or arm, to support the activities of Full Pocket Farm. Because in addition to doing the things that were part of a Medicaid-based program, there were additional things we did in the community that we could take small amounts out to support that program. But you have to be real careful with that, because for anything to be a nonprofit, you have to make sure that if the company is completely owned by you, that you can't benefit directly from anything, which is why we had to be real careful with the specificity of some of the donations for the dock on my pond, on my property, the pottery wheels that were, that were owned by it. There are things that say if we ever did sell the property, we would have to personally pay into the nonprofit for the benefit that we got for having those things as an asset on the property. But then when we closed the day support program and opened our group home, those still just stayed Full Pocket Farm, but all of the workshop activities were operated under the nonprofit. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just have to be really, really
You do. You have to be
specific
very careful on that.
those funds are going to
Yeah, the
support
attorney will tell you,
workshops.
enormous, which is you can't personally benefit from it.
Is all your
But-
family members staff?
My son is paid and my husband is paid.
Out of which
And
bucket?
Nobody's paid out of the nonprofit. Yeah, we don't take any salaries out of the nonprofit. However, moving forward with employment of individuals with disabilities, we're hoping to be able to work with the nonprofit to help pay some of those salaries.
And what is the group home? Is it actually a group home?
Yeah, it's a licensed group home. All of the grief that I went through to get licensed to be a day support program, it actually was not for naught, because when we decided to pivot and do the workshop model at that same time, we had this beautiful 4-bedroom, 2-bath, lower level of our home that's completely different, separate entrance and everything. We were able to take our license as a day support program and modify it to be a group home. So with a couple different, well, not a couple, several modifications to policies and procedures, we were able to utilize that. So even though I talk about that being grief, we were actually able to use it. So it wasn't, it was ultimately a good move.
And do you staff that?
Yes, so a group home has to be staffed 24/7. So those are the employees that I have are actually not just my husband and my son, but we have 3 other employees. So we employ 7 people in our group home.
How many residents do you have?
We only have 3. We're licensed for 4, but I operate it, since we're not we're just owned by, us. We're not a big agency, so the bottom line numbers are not as important as creating what I want to view as just the ultimate residential service for the gentlemen who want to live there at the farm. So they interview the staff and hire, put their stamp of approval on the folks who are DSPs, direct support professionals, that are our staff. When they choose a roommate, they live together like 3 guys who are neurotypical, who choose their own roommates.
maybe one more question, and maybe that's all the questions.
Will you tell us just a little bit more about that? Like, do they pay rent?
Have that Medicaid waiver that we've talked about. And I guess every state has some sort of thing, whether they call it a waiver or whatever, but it's the funding that a person with a disability gets at some point in their life, hopefully. There's waiting lists that, I know in our state, there's hundreds of people on waiting lists to get the waiver. But because we are a Medicaid waiver service, we are paid through Medicaid. So I bill Medicaid for, on a daily per diem rate for the gentlemen that live there. And then I, have a payroll service, and I pay my employees. Yeah.
And that's all through Medicaid?
That's through Medicaid,
Okay.
And that really is, if you, we don't really talk too much about group homes, but there are a lot, housing on a farm is a big thing. And if you can be a Medicaid provider for a group home, or there are lots of models that are private pay also, but it's very expensive. That really has been a way for us to be able to do the things that we want to do and the way that we want to share our farm with many other people by having that income from the group home.
All right, well, one more question.
When you said you do your care farming program, day program privately, how did you set that up?
Like privately, as in like what we charge? you're
Yeah,
saying?
or like you said.
Without a license? you're
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, without a
Yeah.
license.
We just kind of started charging, and we kind of did don't ask, don't tell. However, and we weren't billing for anything, and so people in Minnesota can use there's different waivers, and so people that are on a community supported, their parents have more freedom and their guardians of like where their funds go, and so then they're able to use their funds for ours. So we recently had some county changes of how things were interpreted and budgets were cut, and so it's always a conversation, and we never want the money to be a deterrent, and so we'll always accept people with scholarships, and that's not an issue, but we need to, so we're trying to cover our expenses, and we're able to do that pretty much with our waiver funds and then the products that we make, so we aren't heavily reliant on donations. So
I don't know that we're able to do that in Virginia. I don't know that they have that direct, consumer directed that will pay.
So you'd have to look up Medicaid waiver to your state under DDSO, people with disabilities, if you're serving IDD. Self-determination, though, is such like a big buzzword. I feel like it might live under that in every state. So self-determination is like the fancier, and self-directed. So they're self-directing their own services. Instead of the money from the state going to the agency, then to the person, this is going like a pass through the agency more to the person, back up to the agency to do your bookkeeping for you. And we're just a choice, and you can come and you can private pay, and grandma can pay, and anyone can pay.
Okay, I'm gonna say thank you. So thanks to Jenny.